collectors, and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we are taking a look at Deluxe Class Wheeljack / Q from the Transformers Studio series from Hasbro. This is based on his appearance in Transformers Dark of the Moon. Now, I'll be honest, I've always just kind of called this guy Q. I really don't remember him being called Wheeljack. I have not seen this movie in years. I probably saw it once when it came out, maybe 6 months later when it came out on Blu-ray or whatever, and that's probably it. So I do not have the strongest connection to this character, but I like how he's got kind of an Einstein motif going on. I like his alt mode. You can see a nice close-up of the robot mode here on the side. Over here on this side just kind of has that picture continuing on, which looks pretty good. We have this new Studio Series packaging with the plastic window back. Very, very similar to the Age of the Primes packaging. It's really just the stripe, the color of the stripe down here, that's that different. Up here just says Transformers Dark of the Moon and Wheeljack / Q. And then over here on the back we have product shots of the robot mode and the vehicle mode, and then a little still here from the movie. Just says Q uses his skills as a scientist to create gear for the Autobots. I assume they call him Q because that's the gadget man for James Bond. I assume that's the reference. That's my guess. Like I said, haven't seen the movie in ages. So I'm going to go ahead and get Q out of the packaging here, and we'll take a closer look. So here is Q out of the packaging, and he's definitely rocking the frumpy old man scientist vibe. It's working for him. Really interesting design here. We'll start off with the head sculpt. He's got that kind of Einstein / Ben Franklin look to him, where he's bald up top, but then he's got this kind of light blue hair on the side, which is kind of an interesting take. The blue eyes, and then I guess this just gold mouth. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. He's got quite the grill. Head can rotate from side to side. And I guess look up and down ever so slightly. Can't really rock side to side at all. But then he's got a lot of detail molded into the chest here. A little bit of blue paint that looks pretty good, although mine's got a little bit here, which I don't think it's supposed to be there. But you can see all this stuff kind of molded in. He's got these like lab coat pieces here on the side, a little bit of gold paint. So just kind of all these gadgets he might need so he can do his lab work for the Autobots. Which is kind of a neat look there. I like the way the shoulders are. You can see the little bit of silver paint there for the headlights, which of course we're going to see more of in vehicle mode. But you can kind of move these around as needed, so that you can get full range out of the ball joint here for the shoulder. So you can go up about 90 degrees. And like I said, you can kind of tilt this down as needed. But you can do full rotation front to back. So you have that ball joint there. Then you have a swivel at the bicep. Then you have a ball joint here at the elbow. So you can move the hand all the way around as you may need. And then the hands are kind of built into the forearm. And he's got kind of a peg hole there to hold the accessories, which we'll get into in a little bit. But pushing these back down. I do not believe he has a waist swivel of any kind, and I think that has to deal with these like lab coat pieces. But he does have a ball joint down here, so he can kick pretty far forward. He can kick a little bit back until it hits into the backpack. Can't really do much out to the side. You do have a thigh swivel below the hip ball joint. And I would say as long as you have these pieces back, they come in the packaging up like this. And technically, if you like that look better, you absolutely can do that. But it is going to hinder his knee articulation. So if you have these folded back, you can get pretty good use out of his knee. Mostly just to kind of kick it forward. And then nothing really in terms of ankle tilt. So he's got these heels that kind of like go back and click in. They're really kind of tight, but they do kind of like click in underneath there, and that gives them good stability, but there's just no ankle tilt whatsoever. I guess they had them click in because there was no ankle tilt, and I do feel like every time I try to pick him up by the leg, I end up kind of pushing this up, so I kind of wish these had a way to stay down a little bit better. I mean, obviously gravity will do its job, but every time you try to handle him with the leg, you end up pushing it up, and it's not a huge problem, but it's just kind of annoying. But decent articulation, honestly. I mean, he's supposed to be an older scientist Autobot. I don't really expect him to have a ridiculous amount of articulation. I mean, given the fact that he's an older bot, it would make sense that he's not as spry as some of the younger lads, but still has a decent enough articulation that I think it's the basics of what you'd want. I can forgive the lack of ankle tilt. They've kind of done the legs on a bit of an angle here so that he can kind of stand in a normal pose. Everything else I feel like is pretty much there. I mean, no waist swivel, but again, I'm not that upset about that. The backpack would probably hinder that from happening anyway because of the way these click in, and we'll see that more during transformation. Now, he does have 2 accessories. He's got this stick thing, bow staff. I don't know. Again, I just got done saying he's an older bot, probably not that spry. Not really sure what he's doing with this, but even though it is kind of a rectangular piece, you can pop it into the hand and he can hold it. Not super well, but you can kind of do it. It also has a peg here on the side, so if you wanted to kind of have him hold it like this, you could, and maybe it's supposed to be like a walking stick? I don't know. I don't know what this is for. I mean, maybe as a walking stick it kind of works. I don't know. I feel like his other accessory is far more useful. It's just a blaster. So you just pop it in his hand, it pegs in right away. Boom, he's got a blaster. It's kind of a goofy looking blaster, I'll give you that. But, you know, it's a blaster. Now you can attach this to the back. Now the directions tell you to peg this weird, like slanted rectangular peg into the front grill piece. And technically you can. And that's fine. But you also have this little clip here on the side. Now this is meant more for the vehicle mode. But you can pop it right in there too. Which I find to be a little easier. And I don't think either one looks bad. So whatever your preference. And then you can go ahead and peg this into here. But I have to say, it's kind of a really tight fit. But you can do it. I promise you can. I've done it. It's just so you have this peg hole here and you have this peg on the side. But it's really kind of a tight fit. There we go. And then you could pop this on here. And that way you could store both his weapons on his back. I gotta be honest, I don't really like either of his weapons. I like the blaster more than the staff, but I don't know. Neither one of them is really that great, if I'm being honest. And they also make a point of having you plug this in and then having him put this in his hand like this to make a big staff gun. Sure, whatever. These are here. We're going to get rid of them. So, yeah, I mean, as a robot mode, I think they're going for something very specific, and I think they achieved that. Like I said, he's definitely got the frumpy old man scientist vibes with the gadgets and the lab coat look and the Einstein head sculpt. So they got that covered. I think they went for that. They achieved it. A+. The accessories are a little dumb, but if you're really just planning on having this guy, you know, be in the lab tinkering, doesn't really need accessories, in my opinion. It's really just how you want to build out your display. In any case, let's go ahead and get into his transformation. So the transformation is actually kind of cool. Not super difficult, which I appreciate. So basically the first thing you're going to do is lift up the shoulder pads. And these pieces will kind of unpeg. And they don't really peg in, they kind of friction in. And I'll show you how this works. So you can see here that there is kind of a little channel right here between these two pieces. And then on the inside of the window here, there's kind of like a little tab. And so when these come in, it just kind of frictions onto that. And it just kind of keeps them in place. It's not like a super tight peg. And now, of course, it's not going to do it because I want to show it off. There we go. Now they're both in there. So I just thought that was kind of neat. It's not like a super tight tab-in situation. It's just kind of a guide. And it just kind of keeps them where they're supposed to be. So I thought that was kind of neat. So just going to pop these out. And then this entire backpack piece is going to come up and just hang out here kind of above his head. And then you can flip out this window piece like that. Technically, you can flip these up now. I think the directions have you do it a little bit later, but it really doesn't matter. So we'll just kind of leave these all up here to hang out. But I think it's kind of funny. It's like the entire side of the car is just hanging out on his back. We are going to come down to the legs. So the way these work, you want to make sure this piece is up if you had it flat against the leg. You want to rotate these out to the side. So this whole piece is coming out to the side like this. because that'll give you enough clearance to store the foot and then the heel inside. And then you're going to keep rotating it around like this. And then this back piece is going to come down and snap into place to form the rear of the vehicle. So once again, you are going to rotate this to the side, flip in the foot, and you might have to unhook the heel first, but flip in the foot and the heel, then keep this rotating around, and then snap that down. And then you can go ahead and sandwich the two back halves of the feet or legs or back half of the car, whatever you want to call it. Make sure the lab coat pieces are pushed in. I guess I should have mentioned these do move around, so you can get a little bit more. And actually, I didn't even realize this at first, but you can lift these up and then you can get that range of motion out of the hip. So that's good. I did not realize that until just now. So make sure these are all the way in. At this point, kind of tilt this a little bit forward, you're going to bring the hands in. So what you're going to do is you're going to kind of rotate these around and then utilize the hinge here that's kind of in the middle of the forearm and the ball joint for the elbow to kind of bring this in like this. So spin this at the bicep and then, okay. Basically you need the ball joint and the hinge in the hand to all be facing up. And that will allow you to bring this in. And you have to make sure that the arm clears this, because if it's stuck on here, then you can't get it in all the way. So make sure that that's in. Tuck that in. Then you can peg these two pieces together to form the roof of the car. So come on. There you go. Snap in very tightly. And then that is going to connect to here. So you can see we are forming the car there. Then there is a tiny tab right there that is going to peg in right, and it's very hard to see because of the plastic, but if you can see right there. So there's a circle of plastic as part of this windshield piece. So this is going to come down and peg into that peg, and that will form the rest of the windshield and rest of the car here. So at this point you can see we're pretty much done. You can see Q is hanging out there underneath. You are going to utilize these swivels here. So, and this can be a little interesting. So there's a pin here, if you can see. Let me get a little bit closer. There's a pin here, and then there's a pin here. And so these are going to, and obviously there's a hinge here, so this is going to come down eventually. But what you want to do, and you kind of have to force this a little bit. You kind of have to push this in, and it'll kind of clip over top, and then that'll line that up. And then you want to utilize those two pins I told you about to bring this around. And I might have done this too early. No, there we go. So this will come around. There's a tab here that'll tab in. So get this up, tab that in, and then just kind of bring this against the body, and that'll kind of lightly click in back here. You can see that there's like the tiniest little, where is it? Right here. That tiniest little tab that just kind of situates itself back here. So once again, push this down. So you kind of have to force. You can see how this piece kind of has to go underneath there. So you kind of have to push that underneath like that. And then that'll allow you to get this around. So bring this around. Clear the arm. Get this up and popped in there. And then that will allow you to bring this up. And then that tiny little tab there is going to just situate underneath and then just kind of push everything together. And there we have Q in his vehicle mode. So it's a decent little vehicle mode, honestly. I I think it looks pretty good. Simple blue little car. Rolls pretty well. You have a little bit of silver trim here on the wheels. Some nice paint back here for the tail lights. And then this little bit of silver here. And I'm assuming, okay, so it is a Mercedes. Is that what this is? An ESSO? SO? I don't know cars. But in any case, he looks good. He's a fancy car. And I love the front here. The grille looks great. The silver for the headlights looks nice. You even have the tiny little Mercedes logo there. So all in all, now you do have just basically him hanging out there. Now his hands are tucked back and part of his feet are tucked back, but the whole torso and the lab coat pieces and the head is just hanging out. I guess technically you could try. No, you probably can't. I was going to say you could try to turn the head 180, but I don't think you could. I think his chin would hit it into his collar. So yeah, so he's just hanging out there underneath. But, you know, it's a decent little vehicle mode. I feel like it holds together pretty well. As far as the accessories go, you can tab them into the side just like I did in the robot mode. And then you can do whatever you want with this goofy stuff. I guess technically you're supposed to spin this around. I don't know. I still think the accessories are kind of dumb. But they do store on the side. So I think Q is perfectly good. I mean, it's definitely not the most exciting Autobot. He's the scientist, but I think they definitely nailed the motif there. You know, the head sculpt's good. All the detailing here in the chest. He has kind of the lab coat pieces here, which is kind of a nice touch. I still think the accessories are kind of weird, but in terms of the sculpt and the articulation and the detail and the paint applications, all that I think is pretty good. I mean, like I said, he's not the most exciting Autobot. But if you're a fan of Q, I think this is a pretty decent toy and worth checking out and adding to your collection. Now, because he's not the most exciting, this might shelf warm and might eventually be on deep discount, so that might be something to wait for. I can't imagine too many people are clamoring for this guy, but like I said, it's a fun toy. I mean, it's a pretty neat little transformation. Robot mode and vehicle mode both hold together pretty well. It's fun to go back and forth, not too difficult. Yeah, like I said, he's fun. I don't think he's more exciting than some of the other offerings that are out right now, but like I said, find him on a clearance or something like that? Absolutely. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks so much for watching.